being in a band is like being in like a 5-way romantic, intimate relationship, because you're really so closely bound with certain people that I don't think you, even with like other work environments, you don't get alone time. The only time you get alone is like when you go to the bathroom and someone probably kicks down the door while you're in the bathroom to like brush their teeth, and it's complicated, you know? There's so many different dynamics, and it's actually always imperfect, and it always takes work, and it really takes sacrifice to be able to kind of exist in an ecosystem, and everyone has to kind of constantly always be checking that. The way that maybe like a blood family is, where it's like you didn't choose them, but it is there, and there's a bond there that's, whether you go long times without speaking to a family member, you're still, there's this connection that's there.
Do you know much about your ancestry? Can you go back in your family's history? Like, how far?
Not super, I think not really. Yeah. It's been kind of like, it's been on my like slight curiosity list, but I haven't, like I know generally like, you know, my mom's side of the family and my dad's side of the family give like the last couple generations, but not like really deep, you know, like the real.
Where are those sides from? Do you know, like, were they American, or did they emigrate?
Yeah, so my mom's great-grandpa came from Ireland, so they're Irish. And I think that my dad's side of the family may be Irish, but actually the one thing from my dad's side that I did find, which is kind of less, it dates back less like internationally, like when they came over, but it was all just kind of like generationally where they were moving across the states. Like his grandma worked on a farm in like Wisconsin or like in the middle of America,
right? And
then her father was from this, like there was a lot of like farming, and they're like different farms and stuff they came from. But I remember reading that, but I hadn't like, I thought it was interesting, but I have never done like the full, you know.
Where did you read it? Is there like a family tree?
It was like a family handwritten thing, which is crazy.
That. Like, yeah, what is that? Like, have you actually seen the thing?
I've seen it, and my dad still has it. And I remember when we pulled it out, it was, I was asking questions like, what is this? And he was like, oh yeah, I think maybe one of my dad's sisters was holding on to it, and it was just a thing that someone had kind of kept track of. It was like an effort to keep track of some sort of lineage pre-internet, you know.
Totally.
And it was kind of just that. And it was years ago now that I looked at it, but I just remember kind of, I would need to refresh on like exactly where it was, but I thought it was interesting, like just even seeing like, even these people that I never even thought were, because you only think within the context of who's surrounding you. Totally, and I'm just seeing like, oh wait, my grandma had a grandma, you know, and then I see like, but she lived on a farm, and then thinking about these generations, it's just like, it was interesting, but there's definitely so much more for me to tap into.
Yeah. It's weird to think like how, I mean, your grandma's grandma, like that is so long ago in like just like whatever technology or like transportation. Like when you say someone worked on a farm in the Midwest, like think about how far that was from Baltimore or whatever, like how much further it felt back then than it does now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wild. The family tree thing, I forgot that was part of my story too. That I did 23andMe, and someone reached out saying, I have an Ayers family tree. I'll send it to you. He sent me a scan of it. I ultimately got one, but it looks like a zine. It's like the 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper folded in half and stapled down the sides. And it's like 20 or 30 pages. And it was my great uncle who lived not far from here in 1967. I never knew him. It was all on my father's side, but he made it. He compiled this document and wrote it. And it has like a page on everybody, and it goes back to this one enslaved guy, Isaac Ayers, in Alabama in 1824, and it goes up to 1967. It's real, and so knowing nothing and suddenly having this was pretty intense to just be like, whoa!
It just opens up a whole new universe of like your understanding of your place in the world. You know, it's
yeah. And I'm like looking at these, there's photos, and I'm like, do I look like that person? Like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have siblings? How did you grow up? What kind of family?
I have 3 siblings. So I have an older sister, an older brother, and a younger sister.
In the middle.
And so my older sister, we have a different mother from my older sister. Mm-hmm. And so when I was born, she was 20.
Oh, wow.
So it was interesting, her place in the family, because she never really lived with, by that time she was kind of living on her own, but she was kind of a figure that was like somewhere between, she was an adult, but she was the cool older sister that was kind of introducing me to music and stuff. That was like, this is early 90s. So she's showing me making me mixtapes and
amazing.
She was friends with, I was into skateboarding, and she was friends with a lot of the skaters and people playing in bands in Baltimore. And she was sending me, music and kind of introducing me to people. And then my older brother and my younger sister, we all grew up, we're all like 2 years apart from each other. So we all kind of, and I'm in the middle, we grew up with my family, kind of all like, at the same time.
Right. Did you move at all, or were you in the same place or the same house, or?
We always were in the same house. Yeah. Like when my parents had my brother, they were living somewhere else, but right before they had me, they moved into a new spot. And since then it's been, that's where we kind of grew up. Right. And it was, a nice experience, kind of like right on the outskirts of the city. So we had woods. And so we would play in the woods and, use our imagination, just running wild out there.
Are you still close with your siblings?
Yeah. Still close.
And your older sister as well, the much older sister?
She's actually coming out. Her and my brother are coming out for this weekend with my parents.
She must know that she's the person who sort of got you into music, right? Or that was a big influence.
Yeah, she definitely. And my parents, I think when you find, when you're young, you're kind of finding music subconsciously through different things. So my parents were playing music, but they weren't, like they would like play it in the radio and stuff like that. And they like had records and stuff. But my mom's dad, was actually a pianist, and he had a piano at his house, and he would always kind of like be playing and stuff. And he had like a big jazz record collection as well. Cool. He gave that to me. He's still alive, but when he moved, he gave me all of his records.
Oh wow! And you still have those?
Yeah. And growing up, going to my grandparents' house, the piano was there, and this is pre me having any instrument. But I got into drums really young. That was my first instrument. But I would always kind of want to go, when I got to his house, I'd always just be curious about the piano, because I just kind of wanted to bang on it.
It's percussive, right? Or when you're a kid, it is.
Yeah.
I get it, yeah.
And he'd always be like, stop, like, let me show you something. And I was like so impatient. He would come up and he'd be like playing something nice, and I'd be like, and then, when he'd walk away, I'd be like, it's back to craziness.
Right. Is that your first experience with somebody sort of teaching you music, for lack of a better term?
Yeah. I think so. I think that was kind of the first experience. And then early on, maybe I was like 8 or 9, I was really excited about drums, and I wanted a drum set. My parents were justifiably probably hesitant on buying a drum set. So I remember they got me like a little something, like just to see if he actually likes it. And I was just playing all the time.
See if we have to do this.
Yeah. A family friend, so my dad's best friend, we call him Uncle, actually worked at a music store. And so my parents and him kind of were able to facilitate when I got my first drum set at age like 10 or something like that.
Right.
And that was the biggest moment for me, like actually having an instrument of my own that was like really my instrument, and that I could just play and lock in with.
And you lived out in the woods or whatever, right?
Yeah, and I'd play in the basement. And
so sick.
I remember, because I got it on Christmas, and I got the drum set and I set up. I was so excited, like never been more excited about anything. And I remember playing for hours downstairs on Christmas night, and my parents were like, Brendan, come on, it's so loud, like take a break. And I remember feeling like it was the end of the world. I was like, I'm never gonna be able to play this. Like what? Like, because I just felt like,
Oh, right, like you're not getting
the
good enough
first
fast
night
enough.
I get it. Yeah. They're like, come on, it's like take a break. I'm like, I felt like they were stripping away like my life force at that point. And but yeah, honestly, and it was beautiful too, because that drum set was in that basement, and it stayed in that basement, and then I was always playing in there. I started neighborhood bands, and we'd always practice in the basement, and the drum set was down there. So I had to, we'd bring the guitar amps over.
Right. I mean, where the drums live is where
you got to practice.
Band plays, yeah.
And my friend up the street also had a drum set so we would kind of like figure out where we would practice at. But
amazing.
They were always so gracious about like me playing and jamming and having friends over and us jamming and starting bands and practicing down there.
Right. So they're supportive. They knew it was a positive thing that was happening.
Definitely.
And I could probably tell you were getting better too.
Yeah. And yeah, my dad was always, and so when those neighborhood bands started, my dad was always driving us to shows. And he was so supportive. Like, we would play a show to 2 people out in, like, you know, somewhere in Pennsylvania, and my dad would be loading his van up with all of our gear, the drums, the amps, squeezing everything in. Then we all kind of squeeze in the back and drive us there. We'd set everything up, you know, play, and then drive us back home. And he facilitated a lot of that when we had no logistics on even booking a show. It was kind of like someone would message someone on, you know, online, hey, you want to come play the show?
Right, and MySpace or whatever.
Yeah, MySpace. And then we'd tell my, you know, parents that, like, I want to do the show, and my dad would drive us up there, and always really supportive.
And that's huge. That's so much more than, like, I mean, it's one thing to spend money or to buy a drum set, but to, like, put in that time and that effort. And it's my uncle, who I'm really close with, my mother's brother, who's the person who bought me a drum set when I was 2, which is wild. He has great stories growing up in Long Island in New York about my grandfather driving him into the city to see the jazz artists he wanted to see. And, like, he saw, like, Coltrane and Pharoah Sanders and all those people, like, in clubs. And Crazy. His father, who was a lawyer, would be like, yeah, I'll take you, and would drive in. And my mom was the same. She was always taking me to concerts anytime, like, I mean, we met so many musicians, because she would just be like, let's just go to the stage door and wait for him. And would meet, like, the drummer from Def Leppard, and he was a super nice dude. And she'd be like, my son plays drums, he wants to talk to you. That kind of thing.
So
but like,
cool.
You need parents like that who are like,
yeah,
that's the work, right? The stuff your dad was doing. That's
totally,
yeah, that's amazing. Wow.
And just being supportive, like, drummer too, you know, it's like, right. It's the most annoying instrument, maybe other than, like, some like wind instruments that are just squeaky and
right. But I mean, but the loading and the carrying and the setting up,
like, the playing in the basement when she's probably trying to relax upstairs, like, the patience for that is
yeah.
I'm realizing now is massive. And that was always, you know, like, an option for me to have a space, you know, growing up, that I could just kind of invite the friends over, jam, just play at any time. And I realize how huge that is now too, because we would even record, actually, like, the first couple Turnstile 7-inches were recorded in my parents' basement, because this is where the drums
With those
were.
Drums?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And actually, it was not the first drum set.
Okay.
I bought a second drum set off a friend in 2006 or so, and that was the set I still have. But we would record in the basement, and my friend across the street had figured out how to record, and he went to recording, like a recording program.
Yeah.
And he would just bring his console over, and we record stuff and just kind of figure it out.
Have you been in a band with those guys for almost 20 years?
Yeah, almost. Well, I guess Turnstile started in 2000, end of 2010, 2011 is with the first show. So it's like almost 15. And before that, I was playing drums in a band called Trapped Under Ice.
Right.
And that band was the first band that I really toured with. So it was the first one that I left school early to be like, hey, we were doing this thing, if you want to come with us. I was like, and they were my peers, but also kind of a bit older than me. So I looked up to them so much when I first started going to shows. And they kind of became my best friends, but also these, you know, this kind of figures that I looked up to that were kind of taking me under their wing, when my only touring experience at the time was just like my neighborhood band would book a show. My dad would drive us. And then once we got a license, we would just kind of just drive up and down the coast and just do a little bar show or something. And local shows, obviously, we're always playing locally. Community centers, VFW halls, and things like that.
Right.
I met those guys. They, you know, grew up going to shows with them. I joined the band with them, and they kind of started taking me around the world. We started touring a lot, and definitely that was like a whole different kind of view on life once you kind of break out of your bubble a little bit, you know?
Definitely, yeah. Is there, I mean, most people would agree there is, but do you feel like there's a familial element to being in a band?
100%. Yeah, I think a lot of people probably say this, but that being in a band is like being in like a 5-way romantic, intimate relationship, because, you know, there's nothing, you're really so closely bound with certain people that I don't think you, even with like other work environments, you don't really get, because you're not only working together, but your life force is the same. You know, it's not like you clock in together and you clock out separately. It's like you're all sleeping in the van and doing these drives together, and you don't get alone time. The only time you get alone is like when you go to the bathroom and someone probably kicks down the door while you're in the bathroom to like brush their teeth, and you kind of learn this kind of like acceptance just for the collective, you know, group that has to always kind of be priority.
Yep.
Like a, you know, relative or a blood family. It's complicated, you know, there's so many different dynamics, and it's actually always imperfect, and it always takes work. And, you know, it's something that it really takes sacrifice to be able to kind of exist in an ecosystem, and everyone has to kind of constantly always be checking that.
Yeah.
And doing their best, because like it's guaranteed everyone's going to make mistakes, but like there needs to be awareness, because you're kind of like bound by this like intangible life force that's kind of bringing you together.
Right.
The way that maybe like a blood family is, where it's like you didn't choose them, but it is there, and there's a bond there that's, whether you go long times without speaking to a family member, there's this connection that's there. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not on a smaller level, but like bands I was in 15 years ago, there's a text thread, and the teeniest thing can spark, like everyone gets the joke. Like it exists forever.
Totally.
Like even like no one else would get that. No one else would care about that. But this reminded us all of this one moment, you know, that kind of thing. It's wild. And
yeah.
The thing that I think about that you brought up, this is so funny. I don't know why this popped into my head. The last band I was in toured in a van and toured a lot. And like, we got along great. But when we would go to a restaurant, like a fast food restaurant for lunch, we'd always sit at 4 separate tables, but near each other, near enough to talk. But we'd never sit at one table, because it was like, we get like half an hour to like have all this space, but I don't want to not be with you. I just don't want to be on top of you.
Totally.
You know?
You're just looking for those really quick moments to like feel like you're free.
Yeah. And it's the only time in my life I ever have gone to movies alone, when it was like, oh my God, there's like a few hours to kill. I'm going to go sit in an air-conditioned movie theater.
Yeah.
Get a couple hours away.
Yeah, we didn't like, when Trapped Under Ice was touring, and then when Turnstile started touring, we didn't even get hotel rooms. Like we, you know, financially, when you're not really, you kind of have to be like, well, we can't really do that, but if we just drive overnight, or if you find somewhere to stay, or if someone from the show offers, like the promoter or a friend, and so you're all just like moving together and just sleeping on the floor. And then, you know, once we did kind of elevate to like getting one hotel room, we would all just like sneak in separately and all sleep in, you know, be like,
so good.
Sometimes multiple bands, we just like get the one, and then everyone kind of like takes their turns kind of coming in, so it doesn't look
totally
suspicious. That like there's a level of closeness that's like really, unlike any other thing.
Have you had much grief or loss in your family?
In my 30s now, and I think you start to kind of, it's like the older you get, kind of experiences and things kind of just reveal more and more the fragility of life, and losing friends and losing family members, and even just, you know, distance that sometimes comes not only from death, but just from separation, that can be really just difficult. And I think it's something that I think really is helped by like having that kind of family and community, because it's really hard to kind of process those things alone. And I think it's really easy to kind of spiral when you don't have some sort of backboard of people around you to kind of have a shared related experience. That, you know, even being in a band, it's like, man, there's so much that we've kind of gone through the roller coaster of just existing and being in a band, that having some sort of backboard while everyone is together as a unit, but also everyone is their own island at the same time. Because so there's all these, you know, you're balancing these, people are having personal battles, and then you link up for communal battles, and you're linking up for communal grief and loss, and you're, you know, then it comes like waves, and people are, it's hard too, because I think communication is something that's, I don't think will ever be perfected, but it's like you have to kind of make that effort, because I think I feel really grateful for the dynamic that we exist in, the ones I've fallen into, because I've seen and experienced a lot of really terrible ones. And I think, with family and with, a band or friendships and things like that, like, it's kind of accepting that communication is always going to be failed by someone at some point, but there always needs to be that effort. And as soon as you abandon the effort to, do that, then it just falls apart.
Yeah. What is family to you?
To me, I feel family is where you can go and sit in absolute silence and not turn yourself on, and you can just fully exist in an off state and be comfortable and feel like yourself and feel welcomed and feel understood. I think it's the place where it can be chosen. It can be a place where you can kind of go and, I think of family things when I was young, where I could go and I'm, in my teens, and I could just show up to a family event, and I could just be, at a time when I feel like communication is really hard, like high school, and these really difficult times where the weight of the world feels like it's always on you, and you can show up and you can say nothing, and you can be maybe actively in like a really terrible presenting mood, but you're still, getting the plate of food, and you're still like, there's no kind of fuss, and you can kind of exist in that state. And it's not to say that people don't care but it's a way to be able to kind of exist in a space and feel like you're accepted no matter what. I feel like as long as you have that effort and you have that ability to know that you're allowed to be there, but you also have to be there for the other people as well, and you have to kind of sacrifice and kind of maybe not always make it about you, and you have to kind of be able to show up and do things that are really hard, and always be available to grow with a family, like a space where you can go be yourself, but also be adaptable to kind of go with where the family goes. Because I think time can tear people apart as well. I think closeness, I don't think is determined by time. I think it's determined by a lot of different things, but time can be one of them. But I think, I've in my lifetime, I've experienced meeting people and felt within a matter of a day or two an immediate closeness and a bond that I feel like is unbreakable for life. And then I've experienced people that I thought that were always going to be there, but then as time goes on, life just kind of takes you in different paths. And I think it's, in that way, I think family can pivot around you, but I think there's a home base that I think is kind of around your orbit that always feels like safe spaces and people that can be there for you, and you can feel safe, and you can feel like you're not afraid to communicate with them, and you can feel okay to make mistakes.